Out of any message I've ever shared, there's one message that I really need you to take away if you want to transform your life in 2023. Your life is shaped and determined by your narrative, the story that you tell about everything. Every single area of your life, you're telling a different type of story. You tell a story about yourself, about where you've come from in your past, about what you can and can't do. You tell a story about money, about love, about work. Every single area of life has a narrative or a story attached to it, and that story creates the meaning, but also creates the challenges and the blocks for you stepping into abundance in that specific area. Let's take money, for instance. If you grew up in a household where your parents used to always fight about money and money was always centered around anxiety and stress, then you might think that money is bad. So your story about money is that money is negative. So you are blocking your own ability to create wealth through that story because you have a negative connotation to money. Let's say you grew up in a household where you witnessed your parents going through a divorce, or let's say maybe you were cheated on in an early relationship. Maybe your story about men or women is that they are not safe. So let's say you're a woman and you've been cheated on, or you observe parents that had a divorce, a messy divorce. You might not think that men are safe. Your narrative is telling you that men are not safe. But on a conscious level, you really want a relationship. But your unconscious pattern of the narrative of men not being safe will constantly attract somebody into your life who is not safe, because your outer world has to reflect your inner world. This is one thing I know for sure. Your outer world will always be a reflection of what's going on inside of you. So when I started changing my mindset, when I started changing my thoughts and how I felt, that's when my outside world changed. It wasn't the case that my outside world changed and then all of a sudden on the inside changed. Change is an inside job. I remember as an alcoholic addict feeling really, really stuck, feeling frustrated, not knowing what to do. Rehab for me, that 4-month period where I was locked away for 4 months dealing with my stuff, that was the start of the inner work. The real healing only began when I came out of rehab, but it's been a process of going within. You see, often we're looking for the solution outside of ourselves. We look for a different partner, a different job. We look for things that are going to make us happy or meet our needs. But it's the inside work that is going to affect the world outside of you. And for me, how did I change my narrative? Because you've got to change your narrative and thereby change the meaning that you've got attached to certain things in certain areas of your life. For me, a big part of that was affirmations. And I know for some of you, you might think it's silly, reading I am. So I have a book next to my bed. I used to write, I am a powerful manifester. I am a creator of my reality. And I'll use a silly example. I once wrote in my book, I said, thank you, God, because my affirmations, often I would do them as a gratitude practice as well. So I said, thank you, God, for the most incredible client I will meet today. And then I showed up, I went about my day, true as goodness. At 8 p.m. that night, I got a phone call from a random client. The very next morning, met that client, and they became someone who's spent over 40 million Rand with me in the last year alone. I will often say, I am having the best November ever. And the first 15 days of November were super quiet, but I kept telling people, I kept speaking it. Words have the power of life or death. Everyone I met, I said, November is the busiest month. It's incredible. And because I said it and believed it and embodied it, from the 15th of November to the end of November, we closed about 70 million Rands worth of transactions. So going from a very slow start to a very busy start, because I was speaking it over my life, I was telling a different story. And the story I was telling within then started to reflect in the world outside. You can absolutely reprogram any story that you've been telling yourself. I say it all the time that you are the author of your life. And when you harness the power of storytelling, tell me a story. When you start telling a new story, your life begins to change. You need to start telling yourself a different story about your past. You weren't a victim. I don't care what has happened in your life. You are not a victim. Those things were there to make you, not break you. Even the most painful events or situations, even the biggest challenges and the most insurmountable obstacles, they were there to teach you something. They were there to craft your character. And if you can't make peace, if it's something really traumatic, then at least by you getting through that traumatic experience and that pain, you can now help somebody else. So there was always a reason. It was the perfect experience you needed to have. So once you reframe your story about your past, once you start telling a different story about who you are right now, I want you to think of who you want to be. And then start embodying those characteristics right now. Vision isn't just about what you want to have, it's who you want to be. You need to start telling the story that you are already that person right this moment. And when you start telling that story, you start acting in alignment with your story. Your life will always align to the story that you're telling inside your mind. So when you start telling a different story about your finances, your romantic life, different story about men or women. Yes, maybe one person cheated on you, or yes, maybe you attracted successive narcissists because you were dealing with your own abandonment wound. But once you take ownership that you were the one who was attracting those people, not, oh, I'm a victim, I'm hard done by, I just attract narcissists. No. Own your story, because when you own your story, you can reprogram your story. You can say, I am totally aware that I am deserving, worthy, and more than enough. I am choosing me. When you start choosing yourself, other people will choose you too. But when you're in a pattern of self-abandonment, no wonder you constantly attract narcissists who are going to abandon you. Do you get what I'm saying here? Change the story on the inside and you're going to see your world change. Everything is driven by your narrative. It doesn't help reading endless books. Yes, it does. Books are good. But it doesn't help reading if you're not implementing and putting into practice. It doesn't help watching YouTube videos or podcasts, but you're not living it. You're not starting to implement and put into action the concepts that you're listening to and the concepts that you're reading. The one concept I want you to take away is that you are the master storyteller. You need to start telling better stories in every area of your life. Think of your health, your career, your finances, your hobbies, your friendships, your romantic life, your service, your spirituality. Start telling stories that excite you, stories that get you out of bed in the morning, the story of what you do, your purpose, your career, your vocation, what you commit your life's work to doing should excite you to the core. Start telling a story about you so that when you look in the mirror, you love that person looking back at you. I can promise you right now, if you commit to me for the next 30 days, just for the December period, of telling yourself better stories from when you wake up in the morning, having a gratitude journal, having affirmations that you write, having a spiritual practice in the morning, getting to gym and constantly speaking to yourself like your own best friend, not like your own worst enemy. Stop judging, stop beating yourself up, become your own best friend. Give yourself the encouragement that you're looking for in the outside world. Give yourself the love that you're looking for from a romantic partner. Start serving your own needs. Start coming back to yourself. Show yourself love. Speak life. And you will see your external world transform in a heartbeat. Are you making this commitment to me today? Are you making a promise that you're going to start becoming aware of the stories that you tell? Write those stories down. Keep a journal with you. Start really being conscious about, what am I telling myself? When I do something wrong, you say, oh, you're an idiot. Stop telling that story. Tell yourself that you're amazing and you're capable and you can learn, you can grow. You are. Start speaking life over your existence and you will see life meet you where your story is. If your story is down here, this is where life will meet you. If your story is up there and you're telling a hero story and you're telling an epic saga of this beautiful life that you're living, life has no option but to reflect back to you the story that you're telling inside. I hope this helped you. Share maybe in the comments below, what stories have you been telling about yourself lately, and are you ready to break that cycle and replace it with a story that's going to excite you into 2023 and beyond?